Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Legendary high-wire artist Philippe Petit performs death-defying tightrope walks this Thursday and Friday at the National Building Museum in Washington, D.C. We spoke about his stunning career, including his 1974 high-wire walk between the Twin Towers in New York City, a feat that inspired the Oscar-winning 2008 documentary Man on Wire and the 2015 narrative film The Walk. Hey, Philippe Petit. Hey, thank you so much for joining us on WTOP.
Thank you.
Where are you calling us from? Are you in France now?
No, I live in America for quite a few dozens of years. I am a few miles from Woodstock, New York.
Okay, awesome. Well, we wanted to talk to you because you're coming down for a really cool event at the National Building Museum here in Washington, D.C. They're calling it Wonder on the Wire. It's going to be a 2-day thing, actually. So I think on the first day, Thursday, March 23rd at 7 p.m., they're going to do, cocktail reception and stuff. But you're going to be performing there first during that, and then you're going to do another one on Friday the 24th. Is that right? 2 times?
Yes, the first one is, as you describe, is the gala fundraising for the museum, and then the next morning is for the kids.
So paint a picture for us. What's it going to look like? Where is there going to be a high wire, strewn up inside the museum, or how's it going to work?
Yes, and there are two different shows. The main one, obviously, is the gala evening. My wire is 50 feet high and roughly 100 feet across. I call it 4 stories high, so it calls people attention. And I am going to pay my homage to one of the most beautiful buildings in the world, which has, I'm sure, as you know, the tallest and largest columns in the world inside. It's a gorgeous space that not enough people, in my opinion, know, even in Washington, D.C. And I am very happy to be, offering my talent to this prestigious institution.
Yeah, just like you said, it's sort of a hidden gem of Washington, D.C., which is crazy to believe. But yeah, I believe that building used to be used for congressional balls and, presidential galas and stuff.
Yes.
So when you go in there, people are, look around at those columns. It's going to be incredible. Now, when you're on the wire, though, do you have time to appreciate the majesty, or are you sort of locked in? Are you in a place of Zen where you don't really even get to take that all in?
I am in a place of self-made Zen, and I found out that the best equilibrium for focus is not to forget the world around you, is to keep your antennas open. But obviously, my entire being, my entire body and soul is focused on that wire. But by experience, I can smell, I can hear, I can see all around me.
So you're saying the key is not to close off the world around you. It is to be completely in touch and have your antenna open, and you are at one with the space, I guess.
Yes, but I'm not saying that as a recipe, because in my life, I don't consider recipe useful. I'm saying that as something that I have experienced when I learned by myself to walk on a tightrope.
Yeah, I see. Wow, that's fantastic. Well, and just to be clear, there's not any nets or cushions or anything underneath. It's just the building below the floor, right?
There is a very strong safety net inside my mind, which I have worked over 50 years, and that is a much more safe way than all the safety you can invent that sometimes are very dangerous.
Oh, I love it. Well, it's going to be a really cool event. And so it's going to be on Thursday and Friday, one inside at the hall on Thursday, and then another Friday for the kids. And I believe the second one is, it's sort of tied into your children's book that won the Caldecott Medal, The Man Who Walked Between the Towers. Why was it important to sort of have an event to give back to the kids with that book and this event?
Well, life for me is about that. Is before you leave Earth, you should leave a legacy. You should offer something that people could be inspired and enriched by. And then I love to direct my art to kids. I am a magician, and it's wonderful to do magic to kids. They are a tough audience, but And in the same way, kids are sometimes these days with all their electronic device hard to focus on things. So it'd be interesting to see a few hundred kids sitting on the floor in awe, looking up at a man walking in thin air. So I love the fact that my book, not my book, but a book that was inspired by me, The Man Who Walked Between the Towers, got a Caldecott Award by Mordecai Goldstein. I love to be associated in that space with that, and as an audience to have the readers of that book, which are kids, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome that you're giving back to the kids, and I want to get to the event that inspired that title, the Man Between the Towers. But real quick, take us back even before that. How did you get into doing it to begin with? I know in different movies and stuff made about you. Yeah.
You'll have to read a book that not yet exists, my autobiography, and I'm seriously thinking about finishing writing it one of these days. And I explained that because I think it's very inspiring when you look at, I was going to say a master, so, you know, I should be humble, although it's not my specialty. But anyway, when you look at a master of an art, it's always interesting. How did they start? Did they go to a school of art, or did they learn by themselves, or who or what inspired them? And my story is very strange and unconventional because my parents were not in the circus world, and I had to fight my family and, you know, my surrounding, the authorities that be, to become a self-taught wire walker. And I think, to answer your question, I think it came from the love to climb. And maybe a psychiatrist will say that when I am dead, maybe the love to look at life from a different perspective, thus to fly, you know.
Yeah.
We used to fly millions of years ago, but we forgot that. So anyway, I love my, the beginning of my life was made of trial and error and an immense passion, which is better in my opinion than the circus school. And I learned by myself the strange art of walking on the tightrope.
I love that, and juggling while you're doing it and stuff. Again, what, like tied to trees? I guess the early days.
You
I guess
know, the magic, the juggling, are satellite arts to equilibrium, to acrobatics, to, you know, flying trapeze or walking the tightrope. So yes, I mingle all those arts. And today I am a magician, a juggler, a war walker, and of course, you know, a writer and a lecturer. And
yeah.
I even build a barn with 18th century tools. So you can, but I'm saying that to show you that passion knows no bound. And I think it's a much more interesting way to live your life than to wake up like some kids who are already dead by saying, I don't know what to do today.
Yeah, exactly. I'm bored. I don't know what to do. Well, just go do it. That's great. Before the World Trade Center walk, you walked Notre Dame, right? How did you get the idea to do? Were you just looking up at it one day?
And unfortunately, because of the big fire, now everybody pictured the postcard of Notre Dame,
Yeah.
in the center of Paris. So yeah, I was a young a kid, and nobody wanted to hire me. And I thought, well, I don't really need permission. So I imposed myself after quite a long time of finding out how I could put a wire illegally between the towers of Notre Dame. I you know, display myself one morning, and a giant crowd came up. The police, of course, arrested me. And after that, I was really in the front page all over the world. And then a few years later, between the pylons of the Sydney Harbour Bridge in Australia, and after that, the Twin Towers, again, my appearance without permission made the front pages. But that was not the reason. I really wanted to do those things because they were beautiful theater for me to perform.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And like you're saying, it was the element of surprise. It wasn't like, you know, these magicians today that just have a whole televised event. You just kind of had to sneak in under the cover of night sometimes and pull these things off. But reminder, well, so now we're at the big thing of the World Trade Center walk. I mean, today, tragically, that site is after 9/11 has taken on such a different meaning. But try to remember, listeners who are listening to this, try to remember back back, this was in what? You did it in 1974, so the World Trade Center had only been open for what? A year, less than a year at
Well,
that point?
it was technically open, but they were actually looking for tenants and they were finishing up the top of the building. And that's what allowed me to disguise myself with a borrowed helmet and become a construction worker and sneak through the system.
Well, it was a whole team of you that had to sneak in, right? Because you had other people, helping
Yeah,
you
but
rig everything.
I can assure you that it was not a James Bond type of team. It was like friends found from the sidewalk, or somebody bump into the elevator of a building by accident. It was really. I wrote a book about that, and obviously you've seen Man on Wire.
Great documentary, one of the best
And
ever.
yeah, and there's a Zemeckis movie, The Walk, and those films tell pretty much the story of what happened. So it's a very long story, but again, it's made out of passion and enthusiasm and refusing to take no for an answer and working on making your dreams come true.
Absolutely. Well, we invite everyone to watch Man on Wire, the 2008 documentary. It's amazing, by James Marsh. And then you mentioned the Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie, The Walk, as well, sort of the fictional narrative version of that documentary. But real quick for the radio, if you could, for WTOP, if you can remember, put yourself back in those shoes of being on the wire between the Twin Towers. What are you seeing? What are you smelling? Because you said earlier you like to be in tune with your antennas. So, like,
Well,
what's that feeling like?
I made a very important discovery for mankind. I discovered that the Earth is round. Because as I look at the horizon past the Verrazano Bridge, I could see the faint line between the sky and the sea, and it was not a straight horizontal line. It was slightly curved. So I realized after Galileo, many 100 years later, oh, our planet is a sphere. That's one thing. And another thing very intimate, was that I lay down at some point on the cable to salute the sky, to feel my presence between the towers. And then a bird, a seabird, came hovering over me with red eye of cruelty almost, like the mythological story of the eagle come and devour your liver or whatever. Anyway, and it was not a friendly face from that bird. It was like, what are you doing in our territory? You are trespassing. And the bird was right. I was trespassing. But I remember this silent dialogue, and I won't tell anyone what I said to the bird or what the bird said to me, but it was an otherworldly encounter.
Wow. But so you don't have, we won't make you reveal. That's between you and the bird, but you did have a conversation. That's so cool. That is wild to me. So you weren't scared at all. You were just at peace in that moment.
There was no room for being scared. I had to be very attentive to walking that unknown wire. When I say unknown in a regular performance, I go and check the 2 anchor points before to start the show. But here I couldn't fly to the North Tower and see what my friends who were not riggers had done to help me. So for the first third of the crossing, it was a very dramatic learning for me. How is the wire? And after a few, 20 feet on the pictures, you can see I have a big smile, because not because the wire is great, but because the wire is not horrendous.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, it is an all-time moment that made you the most famous high wire walker ever. And then you have such a great memory of this, and then flash forward 30 years, and tragically one of the most horrific events in human history, 9/11, when you're watching those towers come down, you must have had, I mean, we all were shocked, but you, Philippe Petit, must have had a completely different reaction, having been so connected to that. I mean, what's going through your mind when this happened?
Yes, of course, but one can easily imagine, my feeling of me losing the monument that I would call my towers. Now I would say our towers, of course, but you cannot compare this soul-like feeling of losing a structure with losing thousands of human lives. So I have decided in front of the press to keep those two things separate.
I think that's probably smart. Yeah, all the families that lost loved ones there's just no comparison. But real quick, you mentioned Man on Wire and the movie The Walk. Any memories of we've talked about the events that inspired those, but what about working on it as a filmmaking project? Was
Oh,
James?
it was wonderful.
Yeah.
The documentary, of course, because of its style, was a small film, and we filmed in my estate. I had built a barn, so we filmed in the barn. I had a little theater there. And then the Zemeckis was the opposite, was Hollywood in all its grandeur.
Yeah.
And I was very happy when I could teach Joseph Gordon-Levitt to walk on a tightrope, to walk on a little piece of cable. And that made Zemeckis' life easier, because when the actor can actually do some of the action instead of a stuntman, it's always better for the film. Anyway, I have tons of memories on those two adventures that are very different. Yes.
That's cool. You trained him to actually walk on the wire. Yeah, it's better than just some, pretending he's actually wobbling a little bit, albeit, in a studio, not all the way up in the air. Well, very, very cool. Well, thank you so much for taking so much time with us to talk about this. Do you have after the National Building Museum? Do you have any other big, feats of dazzling
Yes.
magic?
On a completely different issue, I'm going to Australia, and I'm going to street juggle in an obscure little village that is not on the map, as I did 50 years ago, when in that little village they had the equivalent of Woodstock. They had a giant festival with the hippies and and all this way of living. And I have great remembrance of that. So I'm very happy to be invited to celebrate the 50th anniversary of my street juggling in Australia. And after that, in the Hamptons, I have probably one or two performances on different kind of wires. And I am even thinking of celebrating in a very beautiful, unusual way the 50th anniversary of my walk between the Twin Towers. So more to come.
We'll stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. But first, everybody check out Wonder on the Wire on Thursday, March 23rd and Friday, March 24th at the National Building Museum in DC. Final seconds. When all this is over, when your whole life story, is written, what do you want, people to remember about you? What do you hope to inspire future either wire walkers or any artists, creative people? What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, it's a complex question, but basically, I think it is nice when people are inspired by your, not so much what you have done, but your spirit. And I have the spirit of somebody who breaks the rules, but not human rules, of course, more artistic rules, and somebody who moves mountains to make his dreams come true. And if that is contagious, so when people says, hey, I saw your performance yesterday and now I feel nothing is impossible, that is the greatest compliment. And maybe that's what I would like to leave on Earth after I fly away and go back to my planet.
So you're from another planet. All right.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You can't
But
tell us what the
like
name of
it
the
here
planet.
on Earth. It's quite nice.
What's the name of the planet?
Oh no, this I cannot tell.
I can't tell if you're joking or not, and I don't even want to know. That's fantastic. Well, when you do fly away, maybe you can reveal what you said to that bird. But hey, thank you so much, and thanks for visiting us here on Earth.
Very good, very good. Thank you
All
for
right.
opening the door.
All right, bye. Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.